We all want to be happy. But what if the way we're all chasing it is actually pushing it further away? Today, we're going to dive into a really powerful way of thinking about this, a kind of blueprint for finding a more stable, grounded happiness drawn from the spiritual architecture of inner peace. It's a totally different angle on a goal that, let's face it, we all share.
I mean, have you ever felt that, right? The harder you try to grab onto happiness, you think, if I just get that new job, or if I find that perfect relationship, or if I hit that next big goal, the more it just seems to slip right through your fingers. It's this super frustrating push and pull that I think we all know.
And that's exactly where we're going to start. We're calling it the happiness paradox. It's this really common struggle of running after joy, only to find it's always just a little bit out of reach. That's the core problem we're going to unpack today.
So, here's a wild thought. What if we've been going about this all wrong? What if instead of this active, almost frantic chase, the real answer is in something quieter, a more receptive state of just understanding?
Okay, so that brings us to the solution. We're moving from the what's wrong to how to make it right. We're talking about a practical framework, a guide to staying rooted even when life feels completely chaotic and unpredictable.
Now, hold on. Before we go any further, let's be really clear about what we mean by spirituality here. This has nothing to do with religion. Think of it as a practical toolkit for how you relate to life. It's about developing awareness, acceptance, and a real inner steadiness, no matter what's changing on the outside. It's like building an anchor for yourself in a stormy sea.
So you might be asking, okay, that sounds great, but how do we actually do it? Well, this whole framework breaks it down into 3 really practical keys. Think of these as the principles that are going to unlock this totally different way of experiencing your life.
All right, here they are. First, detachment without indifference. Second, choosing meaning over just momentary pleasure. And third, practicing acceptance over resistance. Now let's break these down one by one, because how they work together is pretty cool.
So the first key is detachment, and I love the way this is laid out, because it's not about not caring or becoming some cold, indifferent person. No way. It's the difference between desperately clinging to something because you're afraid of losing it versus caring about it deeply and enjoying it fully, right here, right now. Think about your job, for example. Clinging is obsessing over getting a promotion, living in constant fear that you won't. Caring deeply is just loving the work itself, finding satisfaction in what you're doing, no matter the outcome. Detachment basically protects your inner peace from that fear of loss.
The second key shifts our focus from hunting for that next hit of momentary pleasure to finding a deeper sense of meaning. It's about moving away from that need for constant external excitement and instead finding what's called an inner alignment. The whole idea here is that when your life is guided by a real sense of purpose, even the most ordinary days can feel, well, profound.
And the third key is acceptance. So much of our daily unhappiness comes from fighting reality, just wishing things were different than they are. This slide really shows that pivot from resistance, which is just an emotional knee-jerk reaction, to acceptance, which, well, that allows for a thoughtful response. Acceptance gives you the clarity to act wisely instead of just reacting on impulse.
So where does all this lead? The kind of happiness that grows from this way of living, it's different. It's quieter. It's this internal state that doesn't need external validation. It doesn't depend on applause or new possessions or even getting the outcome you wanted. It grows from the inside out, from things as simple as gratitude and awareness.
And this is a really, really crucial point. This isn't some magic trick to make life stop hurting. Life will still have painful moments, for sure. But the big change is that the pain no longer gets to define you. It's something you experience, but it isn't who you are. There's a huge difference.
And all of this leads to the final and most profound transformation. When you practice these keys, you shift your entire orientation to life. You go from actively, anxiously seeking happiness to simply creating the inner conditions that allow it to show up on its own.
So what does that feel like? Well, the first thing is that a sense of calm starts to replace all that internal chaos. The constant mental chatter just quiets down. It's that feeling when you finally stop trying to solve every single problem at once and you just breathe. That's the space where calm lives.
And right there, in that newfound space, clarity starts to replace confusion. Without that thick fog of constant emotional reaction, your choices become sharper, cleaner. You're not just reacting to triggers anymore. You're actually seeing the bigger picture, and you can choose a path that truly feels right.
And I think this might be the most important takeaway of all. Inner peace isn't a finish line you crossed one day. It's not some final destination you finally arrive at exhausted. It's an ongoing daily practice. It's just a way of living.
Which leaves us with this final, really powerful thought. Look, life is going to pull us in all sorts of directions. We're all going to drift sometimes. That's a given. But this whole framework is about learning how to take the wheel of your own inner world. It's a call to action, really. Learn to drive.